A couple of practical examples of gradients in being used with photos. So here is just a simple, this is kind of what I showed in the intro, but looking a little bit more carefully at how this is constructed. Nothing too fancy, just a linear gradient, and we have a complementary color scheme here, meaning two colors that are very different from each other, orange and purple, paired together. And then looking at the opacity controls, it's starting out fully opaque on the exterior right side, becoming more transparent through the middle, and then getting opaque again. Meaning you can't see through it where it's opaque, and where it's transparent you can see through it. And you can see those opacity changes by clicking on each of the landmarks along the way. And then of course you've got the sliders to control where the color appears, and you can see that transparency through there too. Now I don't have the image going all the way out to the outside of the artboard, but just for example's sake you can sort of see what that looks like as a flat color there on the edges too. Another example where here we have, and again I'm clicking into properties to see these, double clicking on the adjustment layer or the fill layer will give you a very different looking dialog box. So properties, now here I've made one that's just completely black, flat black all the way from the far right side to this point right here, so that we get this nice dark halo around the outside instead of it starting to be purple right immediately. Then it begins to transition to a gradient and goes from, again, another essentially complementary or very different pairing of colors that are very different from each other. Green, purple, could have done yellow, purple, or whatever. And then opacity stops, 100% opaque, 50%, 50, now back up to 80% there in the middle, so you get that green kind of covering up part of the building in the distance. And it looks like a big alien light shining down or something sort of strange. I did go into fill within layers and just backed off that fill a little so that it allows some of the underlying pixels to not be quite so affected by the color of the gradient. And then from there, yeah, again, usually some kind of blend mode might even further enhance the way that this works with the underlying, imagery, pixels from the underlying photo. Normal versus linear dodge. Even something like difference on this one is clearly going to be really striking, and it might be the kind of look that you're going for. So only thing you can do with gradients is play around with the controls, play around with the opacity settings, add more color stops along the way, change it up a lot, do whatever, and then hop into the layers and try some different blend modes and opacity changes until you get the look that you are happy with.